Today marks Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary, a moment of reflection for the nation as it celebrates 6 decades of sovereignty. However, the milestone was marked by unrest in some parts of the country, where citizens took to the streets to express displeasure with the high cost of living. Many say the demonstrations reflect growing frustrations over conditions of living. In his Independence Day address, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu acknowledged the economic hardship and reassured citizens that he is committed to finding sustainable solutions. He urged Nigerians to remain patient and united as his government works towards stabilizing the economy. The president reiterated that bold economic reforms are underway and that long-term strategies are being implemented to reduce inflation and boost local production. Let's listen to the short clip from the president's broadcast earlier today.
Fellow Nigerians, as I address you today, I am deeply aware of the struggles many of you face in these challenging times. Our administration knows that many of you struggle with rising costs and the search for meaningful employment. I want to assure you that your voices are heard. As your president, I assure you that we are committed to finding sustainable solutions to alleviate the suffering of our citizens. Once again, I plead for your patience as the reforms we are implementing show positive signs, and we are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Joining me now in the studio for more insights is elder statesman Mr. Buba Galadima. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Madam Ikoku.
You just listened to the president's address. It was a very short clip. He had about I think 25 to 30 minutes address this morning to the nation, where he made a direct appeal to Nigerians. From what you have just seen, are you energized by what the president has to say to the country?
Well, thank you very much for having me on this program. The issue is not whether I'm energized or not, but I'm happy that Mr. President has acknowledged the fact that the country goes through some stresses and challenges which needs urgent attention and solution. And failure to do that would amount to what the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has recently addressed, that this country is waiting to implode. I hope it does not do that to our faces.
So 64 today, what does that personally mean to you? You know, you are a much older person than us. You have seen much more than we have seen in Nigeria.
Well, I'm a product of the transition from colonial time to Nigerian Republican Constitution. I went to school in 1959, and I witnessed the last year of the British colonial rule in Nigeria. And we attended that time when the district officer in Oyubo Man came to our native authority headquarters, Gashua, to address citizens and made promise of them handing over power to Nigerians. And we saw the district officer. He was just like an angel to us. We were young, primary one. White man in white clothes with what do you call it? What do you call socks in the hand, the feet,
glove.
With the glove and sword, and spoke Victorian English that we never had of before. And then 1960, when the handover was done, through the Oyibo district officer outgoing to the new black African Nigerian district officer of Bade Native Authority, it was something that, if I imagine, I tried to say, where did we lose out from that time to what we are today?
Okay, so paint a picture for us. You're trying to do a comparison between that time and today. Any particular nostalgic moment that you remember? Because there's a lot of gloom and doom going on today, but it wasn't always this way.
Yes, there are. First, let me start from the province where I come from. Not province in terms of territory, but as a young pupil, we had African teachers. We were taught to be clean, to be honest, to be agile and active. We do sports in schools. We clean our schools. We had local health officer with a dispensary in our school. In fact, if I say that we were almost being paid to go to school, because every week, Friday, we have to go to the emir's house where they will cook food, kill cow, and we have festive moments. And the headmaster or the teacher is the most important person in that community. It doesn't matter if there is a stranger, either the provincial officer or provincial commissioner, if he comes to that emirate, the first VIPs that would be invited to see him or to exchange views with him would be the headmaster and the school teachers. Today, that the teacher is the most downgraded, the most, I don't know, I think the most forgotten person in the society. If you see the quality of our buildings and even our toilets, the way they are cleaned, you will marvel.
Okay.
For such a situation, that time.
Right. Madam Galadima, please hold your thoughts. We'll be back. You're watching Arise Prime Time. Plenty more still ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back. We still have elder statesman Malam Buba Galadima with us here in the studio, and we've also been joined by Henry Shield, who is the head of Mission, Leadership and Accountability Initiative. And in our Lagos studio, we have Dr. Chinyere Almona, who is the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Everybody, welcome to the program. So, Madam Buba Galadima, let me continue with you. You were talking about the education that you had, the quality free education, and how that helped you. That's very important today because so many young Nigerians do not have opportunity to have that. You know, in fact, education is quite expensive now. The quality is low in the public schools, so people head to private schools. How important is quality public education, and how can we bring that back? Madam Buba Galadima, the question is for you.
Well, thank you very much once again. As I had tried to say, that in primary school, we were almost being pampered or paid to come to school because every Friday we had to go to the house of the emir where we are given sumptuous dishes. In fact, sometimes cows or chicken or fish was fried for all of us to eat. We will be looking forward to those things. And I said that the teacher is the most important person at that time in the community because apart from the emir, the next person is the headmaster. When there is a big guest or stranger in that emirate, the headmaster is being brought either to interpret if he's talking in English or in Hausa to the community. since most of us at that community did not speak either Hausa or English. So they were the most important, revered people. But in secondary school, actually, we have what we call salary. Or because we are being paid pocket money every week by the I don't know whether it was the government or it was the native authorities that were pulling money together to be paying the students.
Right.
We are being given transport money. We are being given 2 sets of class uniforms, 2 sets of kaftan and the trouser for outing. And every day in the morning, we have a breakfast with bread, tea, and milk with eggs every day in the morning.
Right. Okay, Henry, let me come to you. Having heard what Mr. Galadima said, are you motivated today by anything that you see around you? Because you represent the youth now. What is it that keeps you going in Nigeria of today?
You saw me looking at him all the while he was talking. I'm still pinching myself to say, did this really happen in Nigeria? Were people paid? Were people motivated by stipends, by lunch, by breakfast, by egg, by everything to go to work, to go to school? If this really happened, the question therefore is, between their own time and today, what happened? And until we as a people are able to frontally address what really happened, we will keep, you were talking about private school. You were talking about private school. The least you can get in maybe university, there are primary schools, secondary schools that take as much as 1 million naira per session to go to school. So now you are not only discouraging people from going to school, it has gotten so bad that people need to now either sell off their assets, either go and do whatever criminal thing to be able to afford to send their children to school. What happened to Nigeria between the times of Baba Buba Galadima and today? What happened to us as a people? We've had government, whether it is military, whether it is democratic government, whatever it is, there has never been a lacuna, an instance where there was no representation at the topmost level of governance. Right. We've always had people represent us. So the question is, at what level as a people did we start going down to the extent now that families can no longer afford to send their wards to school?
Okay, Dr. Almona, let me come to you. When you look at Nigeria today, are there any key achievements that we can be proud of as we celebrate 64 today?
Thank you for having me, and good evening to Nigerians. Happy Independence Day. When I look at Nigeria today, I think one thing, the fact that we're still a democracy, is actually a positive thing. That 25 years after we transited from military rule to a democracy, we have remained stable. We've had challenges, but we're still a democracy, and I think that's a positive thing. When I think also about the discussions I've had so far around education, I think for me, the more important thing from the private sector perspective is that education, we haven't paid attention to education. So the question that the youth was asking, what happened? We haven't paid adequate attention to education, so we haven't invested. I think we need to pay attention to, creating the capacity for the private sector, because if we don't create capacity, if we don't train our youth and get them to contribute meaningfully, that's a problem. One positive thing I see is that we have a very strong youth population, and that is a good thing, but we need to harness it. because our youth, the youths are a singular greatest asset that we have. And in the world today, where you have a lot of, you have entertainment, the creative industry making waves, I think that's where a place where the youth have been well endowed, also with like technology, fintech, and things like that. So I think for me, these are positive things with Nigeria. Our population is also a positive thing. It may, to some people, it may be like a negative, but I think the fact that we have over 200 million people in Nigeria, that creates a big market. And if we can then utilize that for good, then we'll be on the right track.
About the youth, Mr. Galadima, a lot of them poured into the streets in some parts of the country today to express their displeasure with the government. Do you agree with their intentions and goals, their determination to get heard? Because a lot of people try to discourage them from demonstrating today.
Well, protests, as we know it in a democracy, is part of the game. The people must be heard, and the only way they can be heard is through peaceful protest, by putting forward their views, putting forward their demands, putting forward what they expect of their leaders. Madam Ikoku, we have a problem in this country. Of course, our population has exponentially grown, agreed. Of course, the economy worldwide has gone down, but Nigeria is not that poor that we cannot take care of ourselves at all. It is the greed of few people that commandeer our commonwealth and convert it to their personal aggrandizement. This is our problem, and this is why we are urging leaders to show example. In the First Republic, of course, during the coup of 1966, I was in Form 1 in secondary school. We learned that the Prime Minister, his family, somebody has to borrow money for them to be brought to Bauchi by road. Today, a common councillor, if there is any change of button, will fly by aeroplane to go to his next destination. So the truth of the matter is that all our leaders today must teach, not by words, but by example.
Right.
And that example is that of selflessness. That example is the one of inculcating into the youth this thing of sacrifice and hard work, such that we will build a sane and safer society.
Yeah.
If one or two people steal the commonwealth of all of us, then you know that this kind of volatile situations of protest is inevitable.
Talking about leadership, Henry, how can the youth contribute to the next phase of national development? They have been yearning for that. Well, it seems like they haven't gotten the space, or is it that they're docile? Which is it?
They are blocked.
Okay.
They are blocked. They are not given that chance. If they are given the chance, if they are teaching them what to do, it would be different.
So, Henry, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are very simple. I think Baba Buba Galadima's generation disappointed this country. They ate the egg and the yolk, and they gave us the shell. They disappointed all of us. Because if those who came before them acted the same way that they acted, they wouldn't have had free education. They wouldn't have been paid to go to school. As we speak, on a daily basis, go to different embassies and high commissions in Nigeria, you see young, energetic, talented Nigerians moving out in droves out of this country. It has become inhabitable for them. It is no longer what can the youth do. It is how can the youth survive. A country where inflation is off the roof. A country where I do not know what your salary is, but a professor in the university cannot buy a vehicle, a Toyota Corolla of 20 years ago. It costs 8 million today. A country where to fuel your car, you spend almost of 80,000 naira in 10 days. That is not a country where you ask the youth their hope. That is a country where you ask the youth, live and go and survive. You do not. See, patriotism, number one, is about survival. It is about survival. You cannot tell me to be patriotic when people are dying left, right, and center. When on a daily basis you open your social media, you open the newspaper, you open the TV stations, and what you are seeing are people kidnapped, people done this. We still heard less than 24 hours ago, places being burnt. What we need to discuss is 64 years later, 64 years after, is this country worthy to be called a democracy?
Right. Right. Dr. Almona, you are in the private sector. Can you tell us what areas have shown the most promise to drive national development? There has to be something.
I think in most sectors in Nigeria, there is opportunity to drive development. What has been lacking is the ease of doing that. So you have a lot of businesses, you have a lot of entrepreneurs who want to go into business. Even the young ones, like we talked about just now, they want to go into business, start their own business, employ people, and do so much more in the different sectors. But they are hampered. They're hampered by several things. They're hampered by regulation and the fact that regulation stifles rather than promotes. They are hard hit by the inflation. They're hard hit by inability to access finance and the fact that interest rate is so high. They are hard hit by just the basic difficulty in living, and so it just then makes it challenging to operate. There are opportunities. I think Nigeria is filled with opportunities. We are rich with opportunities in the different sectors. In mining, there are opportunities. In agriculture, there are opportunities. But, the private sector isn't allowed to move. And so you have situations where companies are leaving Nigeria and they're increasing the rate of unemployment because every factory that shuts down, you kind of shove like 50,000 people into the employment market. So that's what the challenge is. There are opportunities, but how do we harness those opportunities? How do we, how does the government create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive? I was listening to the president's speech today, and he talked about how he wants to harness the youth, the energy of the youth, how he wants to bring them together, and how he wants to create jobs. Bringing youth together to talk is great, but then after the talk, then what next? So if you have a conference, after the conference, what next? Have you created an enabling environment for them to thrive? The environment is still rife with corruption. And when you have corruption, that means people don't get the right opportunities or the right access to the right avenues that they need to succeed. So these are the things that, Galadima talked about, that leadership is a problem. Leadership, everything falls and rises on the back of leadership, and we need to get leadership right. Today, with the hard economic conditions, we want to see, and the president did say, we should be patient and watch and wait for the reforms to kick in and begin to give us some positive vibes, as it were. But I think about it, and the private sector is bleeding. The youths are struggling, but the political circles are living big. We see them all the time. We see them on social media. We see them in the media. They don't seem bothered. They don't seem affected by the hardship that Nigerians are facing. And that is a real problem, where you have the political sects being richer than the private sector, who are in the production area. That's a problem. We need to support production. We need to power production as much as possible.
Okay, Madam Galadima, from what, flowing from what Dr. Almona has said, do you think this president has failed to harness these potentials or these sectors on these areas that she has expatiated on?
I think we have a problem here. Our problem stems from our educational system. We have education, theoretical education. We don't teach our children skill to enable them do certain trade, or to enable them even work in established industries or business enterprises. So we must change our education system from being theoretical to skill acquisition in such a manner that, for example, my friend here spoke about people jabbering out of Nigeria. For me, that is even good. We can teach skill, we can teach people skill and export them and earn foreign exchange for our country.
Right.
That is what other countries like India did. This is what China closed its borders and tried to teach people skill and established industries and supported people to grow. Today, China is the powerhouse of even affluence or production in the whole world. So we have to change our narrative of our educational system.
Okay.
And education system, because during the First Republic, the system is that, for example, we have teacher training colleges, we have secondary schools, we have craft schools, we have technical schools that is training people for the need of the country, for the need of the industries. That is no more there. That one or two people corners the whole commonwealth of the community and leave everybody. And once this continues, let me assure you, Madam Ikoku, we will have no place to hide.
Right. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask you, Henry, what is the future? I mean, the president talked about the confab for the youths, for them to express their desires and, you know, their plans for the country. What do you think of that confab, briefly?
I think we are really, as a nation, we are jumping the gun. And I would like to go and hit straight at the point. We're jumping the gun. The president can come to Wuse Market or Gariki Market or anywhere and summon youth and they will not answer. What has he, as the commander-in-chief in the last 1 year, done to stimulate faith in his government? What has he done to make even the youth he is calling today? Because I can tell you for free, I wouldn't go for such a confab. It's a waste of time. We can go and in the next 1 month after they are done, they will come issue a communique and everybody goes home and everything. If we want to address our issues as a people, there are fundamentals that need to be sorted out. Electoral reforms. We need to look at how our leaders, listen, we are here. We will come tomorrow, we will come next year, we will come every time to talk. Until we get leadership right, we are wasting our time.
Okay, Dr. Almona, we're almost out of time, but I want to also ask you, what are your last words? What do you think is the way forward? What are your dreams for the future for Nigeria?
So I believe that the future is bright. I'm an optimist, and I have hope in Nigeria. But we need to get certain things right. If we want to have an environment where people are productive, we need to have policies and guidelines that will support them. We need to grant them access to markets, access to finance to be able to fund production. So when we think about the SMEs, I like to think that the SMEs are the backbone of any economy. So we need to do right by the SMEs. We need to help them to grow. We need to help them to establish themselves. And sometimes the rule of law or the regulations stifle them. Also, security is a big problem. We can't have a thriving economy if we don't deal with our security problems. We want to attract foreign direct investment. That will be quite difficult if we don't deal with our security issues. The president did say that in the last 1 year, they've arrested about 300 bandits. And I'm wondering, 300, that's like a drop in the ocean. What if there are 3 million or, like, what is that compared to what the problem is? The problem is really rife, and we need to encourage or support even the armed forces to fight the security battle, because it is going to affect our economic growth and stability if we don't do it.
Dr. Almona, Henry Shield, Malam Buba Galadima, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. You are appreciated.